Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Tonight on Gravitas, we bring you news that may change your life. It's a breakthrough that the world is waiting for. The world is getting closer to a vaccine that can treat cancer. You heard that right. Cancer vaccines could soon become a reality. And India, by the way, is on the cusp of making treatment more affordable and less painful. This is extremely important, as for too long, cancer meant death, but now a ray of hope has emerged. While cancer is, of course, not new, a cancer vaccine is. And guess what? Indian scientists and researchers are leading the global efforts, which is incredible considering that Indian scientists do not even have the same resources that those in the West have. And we'll get to that in just a bit. First, let me tell you about what Russia has been able to achieve so far. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russian scientists are on the verge of developing cancer vaccines and next-generation immunomodulatory drugs. He said, and I'm quoting, "I hope that soon they will be effectively used as methods of individual therapy." Now, it's not clear which cancer types this vaccine can actually treat, but if what Putin is saying is true, it will be one of the biggest medical breakthroughs of our time. You see, governments around the world, as well as pharmaceuticals, are working on cancer vaccines. And in India, an indigenously made HPV vaccine is broadening the possibilities of cervical cancer control. It's called Cervavac. It was made by the Indian vaccine maker, the Serum Institute of India, and the Indian government's Department of Biotechnology. It was launched last year. Cervavac is India's first indigenously developed quadrivalent human papillomavirus, or QHPV vaccine. It is said to be effective against 4 strains of the virus: type C, type 11, type 16, and type 18. Now, you must be wondering what a quadrivalent vaccine is. Let me break this down for you. It is a type of vaccine that works by stimulating an immune response against 4 different antigens, like 4 different viruses or other microorganisms. But HPV vaccines are not new. Around the world, there are currently 6 licensed vaccines against HPV. So what makes the Made in India HPV vaccine unique? The Cervavac has demonstrated a robust antibody response that is nearly 1,000 times higher than the baseline against all targeted HPV types. They say it has big potential to eliminate cervical cancer. A Lancet study last year found the Cervavac is as effective as global vaccines. Cervavac is currently undergoing evaluation so that it can be included in the National Immunization Program. And once included, it is expected to be cheaper than the international options. Starting this year, the Serum Institute of India will significantly boost the annual production of Cervavac. Currently, the Serum Institute of India makes 2 to 3 million doses of this vaccine, and the plan is to make 70 million doses this year. That's a big jump. But you see, it aligns with the government of India's efforts to introduce the HPV vaccine for girls between the ages of 9 to 14. Despite being largely preventable, cervical cancer is the 4th most common cancer among women globally, and India, it accounts for about 1/5 of the global burden of cervical cancer. Every year, 1.23 lakh new cases are reported in India, and around 70,000 deaths due to cervical cancer are recorded every year. But a treatment must not only be accessible, it should also be affordable. And India is at the forefront of the efforts to make cancer treatment more affordable. This is where I tell you about another big breakthrough in the race to treat cancer. India's Tata Hospital and IIT Mumbai have invented a new technology called the CAR-T to treat blood cancer. 2-phase trials have been completed so far, in fact, and the results are very, very promising. They found it to be 99% effective on children. Now, we all know how painful chemotherapy is, but researchers found that this new technology will ensure that those who undergo treatment do not have to endure much pain like in chemotherapy. How exactly does it work? With a single dose. You heard that right. With CAR-T technology, complete treatment is possible in a single dose. First, the patient is admitted to the hospital where the blood sample is taken. It is then taken to the laboratory and worked on. When the CAR-T cells are ready in the blood samples, a dose is given to the patient, and after that, the patient is kept in the hospital for 15 days. And during this time, the health is monitored constantly to check if the therapy is working, and then they are free to go home. And regular checkups continue. Researchers found that the CAR-T cell technology is very effective in treatment of advanced blood cell cancer. They see it as a universal remedy in the treatment of cancers that will not be cured by chemotherapy or other techniques. The technology has been given to 30 big hospitals in India, and because it is made completely in India, it is very affordable. In fact, so far, only America and some European countries had this technology, which meant it was very expensive for the patients. A treatment abroad costs 3 to 4 crore rupees. In India, it can now be treated for only 50 lakh rupees. That will make a huge difference. It will make cancer treatment affordable. The CAR-T technology has taken 10 years to develop. It's not 100% there yet, but good results have been seen in patients, and that in itself has researchers here in India very excited at the prospect, naturally. These are some big advancements being made in cancer treatment. Could the cure for cancer come from India? Researchers say the possibilities are huge. Whereas earlier Indians had to go abroad for cancer treatment, the big leaps being made in India will ensure that in the future, patients can come to India for cancer treatment. And before moving on to the next story, I have some questions for you. How long can you go without looking at your phone? What is your average screen time? How many notifications do you get every hour? Do you get distracted easily thanks to your phone while talking to a loved one? Now, what are your answers? And are you happy with those answers? Well, let's face it, it is a bit difficult to stay in the moment, to relax and let go when you have a device that is constantly buzzing. Now imagine, what if it wasn't a single device, but several of them? Now, usually an average person keeps a single mobile phone. If you are a working professional, then you might own 2 of them, one for work, one for personal use. But here's a man who owns not 1, or 2, or 5, but 20 mobile phones. 20 of them. And he, by the way, is one of the most successful people in the world. Who am I talking about? Google CEO Sundar Pichai. In an interview with BBC, Pichai revealed that he uses 20 different mobile phones at a time. And why does he do that? The man is a genius, so there has to be some good reason behind that. The Google CEO says it's a part of his job, that he needs to test different models of phones to ensure that Google products are working well. Basically, it's to keep a check on Google, that it is functioning smoothly. His multiple phones are a commitment to keep up with technological advancements and to always make sure that Google remains innovative. But still, can you imagine having 20 mobile phones? We usually have one, and it's enough to keep us glued to our screen for hours. It's enough to keep us from snoozing. It's also enough to send our stress levels through the roof. Office groups are always pinging. There are work emails, and then there is social media for distraction. Personal groups as well. You might find your fingers hopping from one app to another. It's a vicious loop. Have you ever thought what it is doing to your concentration span? Pick up a book and try to read for a while and you'll find out. Now, I'm not trying to make you feel bad in any way because it is not that simple anymore after all. There was a time when a high daily screen time spelled bad news. But today, a significant proportion of the working class works on their phones itself. Think of the content creators, for example, the graphic designers, the social media managers, the writers, the app developers, or the heads of tech giants like Google. They need smartphones and other devices to make a living. But what about your peace of mind then? Can't peace of mind and success go hand in hand? The lines have blurred, it seems. Yes, it's important to stay on top of your deadlines, to stay on the top of trends, the updates, the tech innovations. But to what extent? How many phones do you need to rule the world? 20 of them? If you were to follow Sundar Pichai's footsteps, now let me tell you how many you need to ruin your mental health. Only one, if used without focus or clear intentions. Should you become a Bitcoin investor today? I'm asking you that question tonight because it has hit a 2-year high. For the first time since November 2021, the total value invested in Bitcoin surpassed $1 trillion. You know what that means? Well, this puts the cryptocurrency in the same league as tech giants like Meta and Tesla. The world's largest cryptocurrency has risen around 22% since the start of February, and it already is set for its biggest monthly rise since October last year. What caused that surge? Well, analysts credit it to last month's regulatory nod for the US-listed exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. Now, for the unversed, a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, or ETF, is an investment vehicle that basically allows the ordinary investors exposure to the price moves of Bitcoin in their regular brokerage accounts. What it offers is a regulated and accessible way for mainstream investors to invest in the digital currency. In simple terms, investors can now have an exposure to Bitcoin without directly holding the asset. And how do they work? Well, think of a secure vault, only digital. Spot Bitcoin ETFs securely hold Bitcoins here. It is managed by registered custodians. And the purpose of this kind of ETF is to basically mirror the price of Bitcoins in the crypto market. To get started, the ETF buys Bitcoins from other holders or through authorized cryptocurrency exchanges. The tokens are then stored in a digital wallet, often using several layers of security. While several countries have embraced ETFs, the US regulators were initially hesitant. They worried about market manipulation and custodial risk. But then earlier this year, they officially approved the listing of the first ever spot Bitcoin ETFs. It was this decision of the US regulator that led to Bitcoin prices gaining ground. This was a game changer for the industry. Continuous inflows into US spot Bitcoin ETFs provided support to Bitcoin prices. On Wednesday, Bitcoin's value climbed to $51,606, a 25-month high, no less. And then the total investment surged past the $1 trillion mark. Now, it's worth noting that the all-time high for Bitcoin was in November 2021. It valued $1.28 trillion then. But the market was different then. It was much frothier. The prices rose above the real value because there was so much demand. Right now, Bitcoin is in a bull market. It's looking bright for Bitcoin. Since the beginning of February, in fact, Bitcoin has witnessed a remarkable uptick of around 20%. In tandem with Bitcoin's market rally, shares of other US-listed cryptocurrency firms have experienced pre-market gains. Notable among them are Coinbase, which saw a 7% increase. Mining companies like Riot Platforms surged 9%, and CleanSpark surged nearly 16%. Yes, Bitcoin's journey has been tumultuous. There have been highs, there have been periods of struggle. Factors like global central banks' monetary tightening, failures within crypto industry, including those at leading exchanges like FTX, greatly contributed to Bitcoin's turbulent journey, but recent months have shown renewed optimism. The question is, will Bitcoin be able to sustain this pace? And we will have to wait and watch for that. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just concluded his visit to Qatar. A visit, he said, has added new vigor to the ties between the two sides. Prime Minister Modi's visit was significant to say the least. It came a week after Qatar released 8 Indian nationals sentenced to death after being arrested in the year 2022. The visit marked a big step towards reconciliation. In August 2022, the 8 ex-Navy personnel were arrested on espionage charges. It had led to diplomatic tensions. India, remember, had summoned the Qatari ambassador and urged Qatar to review the verdict. For months, India strongly denied the charges, calling for their immediate release and expressing deep concern while maintaining innocence. And following appeals and high-level interventions, the Qatari court in November had commuted the death sentences to life imprisonment. And with this visit to Qatar by Prime Minister Modi, it has ensured a big win for Indian diplomacy. Upon arriving in Doha, Prime Minister Modi was accorded a ceremonial welcome. He described his meeting with his Qatari counterpart, the Qatari Prime Minister, as wonderful. And during his less than 24-hour visit, Prime Minister Modi held wide-ranging talks with the Qatari Emir. They focused on expanding ties in areas of trade, energy, investment and new technology. And after meeting with the Emir, Prime Minister Modi said that India looks forward to scaling up cooperation with the Gulf nation. The leaders also discussed recent regional developments in West Asia. They stressed on the importance of upholding peace and stability in the region and beyond. The meeting coming at a time when trade and energy ties between India and Qatar are on an upswing. In fact, Qatar is the largest supplier of LNG to India, accounting for over 48% of India's global LNG imports. Recently, India's Petronet has renewed a contract to buy 7.5 million tons of LNG from Qatar annually from 2029 for 20 years. It is being billed as the largest ever extension of super chilled fuel in the world. The original 25-year deal was signed in 1999 and supplies had started in 2004. This was Prime Minister Modi's last international trip ahead of the crucial general elections in India in the coming summer, and his trip to Qatar, along with the UAE, symbolizing India's evolved relations with the Gulf in the last 10 years. Just when China thought it could run free in the Indian Ocean, the Indian Navy sent the submarine INS Karanj to one of Sri Lanka's main ports. Now, this might come as a spoil sport for China, whose research vessel Xiang Yang Hong 3 sailed towards the Maldives earlier in the month. China says the ship is for scientific research. But then again, who is the dragon kidding? The vessel can very well be used for snooping. It is capable of collecting underwater data related to military applications. It is a well-known and documented occurrence. The Chinese PLA Navy uses its research vessels for hydrographic surveys, charting underwater paths for its submarines, monitoring missiles or satellites test fired from nearby locations, and to also keep a watch on military installations in neighboring countries. The ship's dual-use nature sent alarm bells ringing. And India responded in full. It deployed the INS Karanj in the Colombo port for 2 days. Officially, the submarine's purpose was to refuel and restock, but it is being speculated that it could have been tasked with monitoring the Chinese vessel's activities. Let me just tell you more about INS Karanj. The diesel-electric submarine is 67.5 meters long. It is equipped with the best sensors in the world. It is also one of the quietest submarines. Its powerful diesel engines can quickly charge batteries for a stealth mission profile. How can it be a spoiled sport for China? In a lot of different ways. Firstly, if China's Xiang Yanghong 3 wanted to collect physical samples from water, the submarine could have stirred up sediments or disrupted the ocean currents to invalidate those samples. If the Chinese research involved acoustic methods like sonar or underwater microphones, the Indian submarine could generate noise to interfere. Its presence could also virtually disturb marine life, thereby affecting the Chinese sample collection. All in all, the INS Karanj spelled bad news for China. It would not let the Chinese vessel get away with its so-called research. The timing of this whole incident made it even more interesting. The Sri Lankan government recently decided not to allow China's research vessels to dock at the ports of Sri Lanka or operate in the exclusive economic zone of the country for a year. So now Beijing chose to leverage its friendly relations with Moïse's regime in Mali and opted to use the ports of the Maldives to dock its research vessel. You see, the political equation in the region is getting tricky. Maldives' new president, Mohamed Moïse, is upping the ante against India. India is also worried about the possibility of China building an ocean observatory in the Maldives, but it is sending out strong messages. When Moïse gave a green flag to the Chinese vessel, little did China or the Maldives know that the ship would be tailed by an Indian submarine. It was a diplomatic win for India. The INS Karanj went to Sri Lanka on the island nation's Independence Day, and its arrival, while China is banned from docking its vessels in Sri Lanka, highlighted India's role as the primary security provider in the Indian Ocean region. India's ambition to become a global supply chain hub has got wings. India is setting up a large warehouse facility in the UAE. You heard that right. On Wednesday, the foundation stone for the facility was laid by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the UAE's Vice President. The mega warehouse facility is called Bharat Mart. This will basically be a facility for exporters to showcase all their products under one roof. The concept is still being finalized. However, once done, the facility is expected to be operational by 2025. The facility will be set up in Dubai's Jebel Ali Free Zone with over 100,000 square meters area. Bharat Mart will have retail showrooms, warehouses, offices, and other facilities. It will accommodate various categories of goods ranging from heavy machinery to perishable items. There are plans to establish a digital platform for buyers across the world. Bharat Mart is all set to rival China's warehousing facility called Dragon Mart. So what is Dragon Mart? Similar to Bharat Mart, China's Dragon Mart is located in Dubai, spread across 150,000 square meters of land. Dragon Mart has about 4,000 shops. They sell from household appliances to shoes. It has become a one-stop destination for Chinese goods. In fact, Bharat Mart will be a mini India in the UAE for buyers. It is also likely to have a positive effect on India-UAE ties. Bharat Mart is also likely to strengthen bilateral trade further. You ask how? Well, by leveraging the Jebel Ali port's strategic location and strength in logistics. India-UAE trade, by the way, has been on the rise since the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement came into effect in the year 2022. In 2022 to 23, the total bilateral trade stood at over $84 billion. With the UAE looking at diversifying away from oil, both countries are aiming to double their non-petroleum trade target to $100 billion by 2030. Bharat Mart is also expected to play a key role in promoting the exports of India's micro, small and medium sectors. More importantly, Bharat Mart is likely to boost the government's Make in India campaign. The facility will provide them with a platform to reach international buyers in West Asia, Africa and Eurasia. And let's now take a look at what's happening in the wild, wild west. Yet another mass shooting has taken place. The U.S. was bustling with Super Bowl excitement. The Kansas City Chiefs reigned supreme. The fans were reveling in the victory when a deadly incident took place. During a Super Bowl victory parade near Union Station in Kansas City, a mass shooting occurred. While much remains unclear, at least one was killed and 21 others were injured by gunfire. Here's what the authorities had to say.
FD units, along with our mutual aid partners that were working to assist us at this event, touched a total of 22 gunshot victims. One of those was a fatality. We had 8 what we considered immediately life-threatening patients. We had 7 with life-threatening injuries, and we had 6 that had minor injuries. Of the most serious, the immediately life-threatening injuries, we had 8 of those. Those were all transported and off the scene and route to hospitals within 10 minutes.
The bloodshed turned the festive occasion into a scene of panic. The attendees scrambled for cover at the sound of rapid-fire gunshots. 11 of those hurt by the gunfire or the resultant chaos were children. Some were as young as 6. The police have taken 3 people into custody for questioning. The circumstances remain murky. It's not clear whether the Super Bowl victory celebration was targeted for the attack or whether the violence just spilled over into it. But what is astounding is more than 800 law enforcement officers were present at the event. This also included federal agents, and yet they could not prevent the violence. Only days ago, the chief security officer of NFL announced that there were no credible threats ahead of the Super Bowl.
While the Super Bowl has again been designated as a Tier 1 special security rating event, there is no known specific or credible threats to the game or any of the events surrounding Super Bowl. As always, you'll see an increased security presence not only around the stadium on game day, but also around all of our other events. More than 30 federal, state, and local public safety and security agencies have participated in the planning of this event over the last 18 months.
Did you hear that? Turns out the authorities were wrong. They did not factor in America's obsession with gun violence. Shifting focus for now, there is no end in sight to the Russia-Ukraine war that is nearing its 2-year anniversary. Ukraine has been making strides in the Black Sea while Russia has been continuously pounding the country. Our next report taking a closer look.
Jets buzzing in the skies. Guns blazing on the land. Naval drones targeting ships at sea. The intensity in the Russia-Ukraine war is nowhere close to dimming. Even after 2 years of the conflict, no side is a clear victor. On the land, it is Russia that has been making gains. Missile strikes hit Ukrainian cities, damaging residential and commercial buildings. On Thursday, scores of people were injured. In Kyiv, Dnipro, Zaporizhia and Lviv, Ukraine claims it shot down 13 out of 26 Russian missiles.
The enemy struck Veliki Burluk in the Kupiansk region. The rocket attack struck two-story apartment buildings in the private sector.
Heavy fighting is underway in Avdiivka. Russian forces have surrounded the eastern town from 3 sides. Ukraine has rushed its reserve fighters in some parts and withdrawing troops from other areas. Ukrainian missile strikes hit Russia's southern city of Belgorod. The war-battered country also has an ace up its sleeve. Drones that are raining aerial weapons on Russia's energy infrastructure and naval assets. A Ukrainian drone exploded an oil storage depot in Russia's Kursk region, setting fire to the facility. Ukraine's naval drones have also taken over the Black Sea. It has successfully hit Russian warships. On Wednesday, Ukraine sunk a Russian landing warship off the Crimean coast. Earlier on February 1st, Kyiv's drones reportedly hit and sank the Russian missile-armed cutter Ivanovets. Despite not possessing large warships like Russia, Kyiv is driving away Moscow's fleet from the Crimean Peninsula with cost-effective explosive-laden Navy drones.
And time now to get you some news from space. There is good news and bad news, by the way, so be ready for mixed feelings. Let me share the good news first. This involves the discovery of water on 2 asteroids. You heard that right. When traces of water were discovered on the moon, it ignited a new era of exploration, pushing us further into the cosmos. Now, that thirst for discovery has led scientists to find water on asteroids for the first time. Using data from the SOFIA infrared telescope, researchers pinpointed water on the surface of the Iris and Massalia asteroids. Iris and Massalia also orbit the Sun. Thus, it was long believed by scientists that any form of water on them should have evaporated long ago. But the recent discovery busted all those theories, and these asteroids have defied expectations. Well, it is a pleasant surprise. Just to tell you a little bit more about these 2 asteroids, Iris is 199 kilometers or 124 miles in diameter, about 99% larger than other asteroids. Massalia, on the other hand, is 135 kilometers in diameter and shares an orbit similar to Iris's. It's not the first time the SOFIA infrared telescope has led to such a discovery. In October 2020, it also identified water on the moon. SOFIA used its faint infrared camera to detect the traces of water molecules on the surface, equivalent to 350 millimeters of water in a cubic meter of soil. Dr. Anicia Arredondo, the lead author of the paper from the Southwest Research Institute, confirmed the presence of water akin to that found on the moon. However, this revelation comes with challenges. Other asteroids like Parthenope and Melpomene yielded inconclusive results due to technological limitations. And as we strive to understand the distribution of water in our solar system, the capabilities of the James Webb Space Telescope are next in line to be leveraged. This telescope is believed to be of superior quality optics and has significantly improved signal-to-noise ratio to dig deeper into this matter. Yet, amid the marvels of discovery, there lurks the sobering reality of near misses. So let me get to the bad news. Recently, an asteroid 2024 CY1 evaded detection until mere weeks before its close encounter with planet Earth. Some asteroids evade detection despite close monitoring by space agencies like NASA. One such asteroid whizzed by Earth on Valentine's Day, coming closer than the moon's distance from the Earth. Discovered by the Catalina Sky Survey on the 30th of January, this swiftly moving space rock, part of the Apollo group, has orbits intersecting with planet Earth's. Named 2024 CY1, this asteroid was roughly the size of a double-decker bus and potentially weighing hundreds of tons. It marked the third asteroid passing with one lunar distance this month. Just for some context here, the planet-moon distance is 238,855 miles. This asteroid came within 75,278 miles. Fortunately, due to its size, the asteroid likely burned harmlessly in our atmosphere and posed no threat on the surface. So that in itself is the good news here. And from what's happening in space, let's now turn to a story that is out of this world. In fact, it gives a sneak peek into what life might look like in the future. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you had rice? Maybe your last meal had rice in it. Maybe it's been a while. Maybe you hate rice. But what if the rice was made in a laboratory? Sounds crazy, right? Well, this is not some distant reality. It is happening now. And what also makes this rice extraordinary, by the way, is the fact that it is non-vegetarian rice. Sounds unheard of, right? Well, that was my reaction as well. Let me tell you what's cooking. This story is about a different kind of rice. Researchers have made rice grains with beef and cow fat cells grown inside them. How exactly was that done and why? Let me dish out the details. It's been called a new type of hybrid food. Scientists say that the rice could be an eco-friendly source of protein, that it could also be a more affordable source of protein than traditional beef. How is it made? Basically, the traditional rice grains were covered with fish gelatin. This coating was used to basically enable the beef cells to latch on. And then these grains were left in a petri dish to culture for up to 11 days. The rice was tried with various accompaniments, and it was a good match with a variety of dishes, by the way. This is being called a breakthrough achievement for multiple reasons. It's been called the food of the future or experimental food. The researchers say it could provide relief for famine situations. It could make food production more sustainable. It could also be used as rations for the military or for astronauts. What it also means is that mixing animal cells into rice means that it can be a new complete meal, given that rice basically is a carbohydrate with smaller proportions of protein, fat, etc. According to the researchers, the rice had 8% more protein and 7% more fat. The team is exploring sustainable supplies of cells that can be maintained in the laboratory without requiring more animals. And future versions could have other types of meat or fish so that different tastes and nutritional requirements can be accounted for. And the thing is, this is not the first time lab-grown or cultivated meat products are being explored. Remember the time when the first lab-grown burger was unveiled? This was in the year 2013. In fact, recently, Singapore started selling the world's first cultivated chicken product. Meanwhile, in sharp contrast, Italy has backed a bill to ban lab-produced meat. This was basically done to protect the country's food traditions. For this latest study, cells taken from livestock were used, but if a cell line can be developed, meaning that cells that continue dividing and growing over long periods of time, they can get the cells without livestock breeding. And following that, a sustainable food system can be put in place. As of now, the rice will not be available out there in the market. The plan is basically to develop the process further so the cells can grow better in the rice grain and produce more nutritional value. But the question is, would you want to have lab-grown food? Write to us and let us know. An emotional scene unfolded at the Niranjan Shah Stadium in Gujarat. Cricketer Sarfaraz Khan made his debut in the India versus England third test, and as the Indian team cheered the youngster from Mumbai, Khan's father was getting emotional as he stood on the sidelines. Just minutes before the match, legendary Indian player Anil Kumble handed over a test cap to Sarfaraz Khan. And as soon as that happened, the first thing Khan did was to run towards his father. Tears rolled down Khan's father's cheeks as he took the cap from his son and kissed the badge on it. After all, it was a dream come true moment for the father and for the son. We are leaving you with these visuals as we say goodbye. Thanks for watching.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America,